We got everybody? Okay. We'll call to order this evening's meeting. Thank you so much. And for those that were here for the town chat, we had a couple. Thank you for entertaining us and putting up with us for a little bit. That was very, very interesting. Thank you all for joining us tonight. If you have a cell phone, please silence the cell phone so that we can give you all of our attention and you give yours to us. With that, if you'd like to join us, we're going to do a Pledge of Allegiance, and then Mr. Huntley will give our invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, as we gather here together as a council representing our town, we pray that we would first of all like to give thanks for the blessings we have received, the blessings of liberty, of family, of town, state, and community, and the blessing of such organizations as the George Fish Academy that have done so much for our citizens. We pray that as we deliberate, you will give us the wisdom we need. In thy holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. Council members, you have been provided the minutes from our February 24th meeting. Are there any changes, deletions, or additions? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor by show of hand, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Thank you. Public comment. Pursuant to Section 246 of the Code of Ordinances for the Town of Fort Mill, any resident may appear before council for the purpose of providing public comments on any municipal matter except personnel matters. Those who wish to speak must sign the public comment sheet prior to the start of the meeting. Do we have anyone signed in?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Welcome. Come on in. All right, so we have no one signed to speak for public comment. Presentations. Presentation number 1. It is a proclamation to honor the George Fish School receiving a historical marker. So if you will, bear with me. I'd like to read the presentation, and then we'll call up the folks that are here that are going to receive this. A proclamation from the town of Fort Mill. Whereas the George Fish School was the culmination of early 20th century vision to improve educational opportunities for African Americans in the rural South, shared between Dr. Booker T. Washington, president of I never say that right, say it out loud. Tuskegee, okay, I'm tongue twisted on that, Institute, and Mr. Julius Rosenwald, philanthropist and president of Sears, Roebuck and Company. Whereas the 6-teacher community school model was used to design the George Fish School, which was completed in 1926. The Central Consolidated School was situated on 4 acres of land and also had an accompanying faculty house. Whereas deviating from the accepted tradition of providing wooden plank structures in segregated communities, Mr. George Fish, superintendent of Springs Cotton Mill plants number 1 and number 2, successfully advocated for a brick structure design. The school was subsequently named for him. Whereas from its completion in 1926 until 1968, the George Fish School served students and families in the segregated African American community of Paradise. It was staffed by dedicated African American educators who commuted from Indian Land, Rock Hill, Columbia, Chester, Gaffney, and other surrounding communities. Whereas from 1968 until 1986, the George Fish School was integrated and served the wider Fort Mill community. It was renamed Fort Mill Junior High School and then Fort Mill Middle School. The building was sold in 1986 and later demolished. And whereas in 2006, alumni of the George Fish School under the leadership of Mr. John L. Sanders III, a 1964 graduate of the George Fish School and president of the George Fish School Historical Alumni Committee, worked to establish a monument in 2007 at the former site of the school. George Fish School Class 1963 graduate Mr. Rufus Rudy Sanders designed the monument, and Duke Energy supported its erection on the grounds. And whereas in 2019, the George Fish School Historical Marker Committee was formed. The Fort Mill School District, under the leadership of Superintendent Dr. Chuck Epps, sponsored the committee's application to the South Carolina Department of Archives and History to designate the George Fish School as a significant part of South Carolina's cultural and educational history. Whereas in December 2019, historical marker number 46-68 commemorating the George Fish School was erected. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the town of Fort Mill recognizes the George Fish School and its legacy as an important part of Fort Mill's history. And with that, I'd like to invite up those of you that are here to receive this proclamation. I do know that we're going to do another presentation later this month, but I wanted to say thank you. I actually, when we integrated, I was one of the first white students to attend that school. It was a wonderful experience, and being a native of Fort Mill, I've always enjoyed the good people that live in there and that help raise me too. So thank you so much for being here, and with that, we've got a very nice proclamation to give you. Thank you for what you've contributed to our community and so everybody.
For introducing the proclamation and thanking the council for recognizing the contributions of the school. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Molly, did you attend?
No, he did not. I
It was
was,
after me.
I was the
there?
first.
Okay, I
Yeah,
attended there as well.
He's older
so-
than I am.
A little bit.
He's older than I am too.
Yeah, there you go. All righty. Presentation number 2, proclamation in honor of Duke Energy's Catawba Nuclear Station 35-year anniversary. I have so many personal commitments to these things tonight. Catawba Nuclear Station's 35th anniversary. Whereas the town of Fort Mill, South Carolina commends Duke Energy for their efforts to make York County an economically vibrant community, and whereas Catawba Nuclear Station is jointly owned by North Carolina Municipal Power Agency No. 1, North Carolina Electric Membership Cooperation, Piedmont Municipal Power Agency, and Duke Energy. And whereas the town of Fort Mill recognizes the contributions of the Duke Energy-operated Catawba Nuclear Station in its 35th anniversary of generation, and whereas Duke Energy shares our goals of promoting and encouraging the development of business to complement the true spirit and character of Fort Mill, and whereas Duke Energy has supported a strong economy through, among other things, payment of $89 million in South Carolina nuclear payroll taxes in 2018, and of which the Catawba Station paid $30 million, and the Catawba Nuclear Station site provides employment for over 1,000 individuals, including approximately 800 Duke Energy employees and 250 contractors. And whereas Duke Energy has been a long, strong ally for York County economic development efforts in many ways, whereas Catawba's 2 units produce enough energy to provide power to 1.4 million homes while using less land than any other clean air source. And whereas in 2018, Catawba avoided the release of 3 million tons of carbon dioxide if that same generation had been produced by coal, oil, or natural gas, which is pretty amazing. And whereas we appreciate Duke Energy's continued commitment to Fort Mill, York County, and South Carolina, and look forward to continuing our long-standing relationship with Duke Energy to expand the opportunities available for our citizens, enhance and protect our natural environment, and promote a strong economy. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed, the town of Fort Mill commends Duke Energy for their commitment to the prosperity and advancement of our city and York County, and congratulates Catawba Nuclear Station on its 35th anniversary of power generation. Do we have someone here tonight from Catawba? All righty then, come on up. How are you?
Doing well, how are you?
Good.
Will Whitney.
Nice to meet
I'm
you,
with
Will.
Mulligan Law Firm. We're actually helping Duke put on this event. So I'm here on behalf of Duke.
Well, that's great. I can talk to you. I actually worked at Catawba Nuclear during construction.
Okay,
And then
well.
later did tours of the operating plant. So
Excellent.
it's a wonderful set of people that have invested in our community. I know all of the owners of Catawba, and they have made a difference in all of our communities. So with that, here's a proclamation, Will, and we're so glad to have you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And I have invitations for yourself and for the council for the celebration.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much. You will take that back to the appropriate people.
I will, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. All right, two very nice things to proclaim within our community, because it's not just one set of people, it's everyone that makes a difference to make Fort Mill wonderful. Jacana, I believe you're up next for presentation number 3 on our Strawberry Festival.
Well, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm excited to present the Town of Fort Mill, South Carolina Strawberry Festival Week of Events. Once again, Piedmont Medical Center is our title strawberry sponsor, and we are very appreciative of their continued support. So we're going to start off with our South Carolina Strawberry Festival 2-minute update, and I'm not sure it loaded on your computer, did it?
Yum. That looks good.
I know. Okay, yeah. Okay, that was a 2-minute update that Tony McMahon had put together for us. So our Strawberry Week of Events is actually Saturday, April 25th through Saturday, May 2nd, 2020. And our festival week kicks off with our first annual Strawberry Sprint and Stroll, and it's on Saturday, April 25th in historic downtown Fort Mill. It's hosted by the Fort Mill Economic Partners, as y'all heard a couple of weeks ago from them about the festival. And registration information and route maps can be found at scstrawberryfestival.com. There's a fun run for the family, and also a 5K route on that site. So it's an exciting event and fun time for the entire family. And then another new thing this year is the Little Miss Strawberry Festival pageant. It's on Sunday, April 26th from 1 to 3 at Fort Mill High School. And our categories are Tiny Miss Strawberry Shortcake, that everybody's excited about the Strawberry Shortcake name, the Little Miss Strawberry Shortcake, the Miss Strawberry Princess, and the Miss Strawberry Festival Junior Teen. And those are for ages 5 through 13. And then we'll have our annual Teen Miss and Mrs. Strawberry Festival pageant on Monday, April the 27th from 7 to 9 at Fort Mill High School for the Teen Strawberry Queen, the Miss Strawberry Queen, and the Mrs. Strawberry Queen. And all of the applications for both of those pageants can be found at scstrawberryfestival.com, and they will be accepted until April the 5th. And you can also follow SC Strawberry Festival Pageant on Facebook and Instagram. And we would love for all of our local beautiful ladies from 5 to 56 years old to be a part of these pageants. Then we move to Tuesday, April the 28th, where we'll have our SC Strawberry Festival Golf Tournament. We are very grateful for Springfield Golf Club sponsoring this event, letting us hold it there again this year. At 8 a.m. we'll have our welcome reception with breakfast sponsored by Bojangles. And then at 9:30 a.m. is a shotgun start, which Mr. Councilman Helms had to help explain that to us, what that was.
That was a forced start, didn't it?
Registration includes a tournament gift, breakfast, and lunch, and then lunch is provided by Subway of downtown Fort Mill. Each player receives 4 drink tickets, and they can be used for beer, water, and soft drinks, and Comer Distributing Company and Rock Hill Coca-Cola Company are our suppliers of that. We have local businesses and organizations that are invited to support the tournament by participating as a hole sponsor, and those packages are $150 to $250 per hole, and all that information can be found at scstrawberryfestival.com, all the registration forms and sponsorship forms, everything. Then on Wednesday, April the 29th, we have our second annual Downtown Strawberry Jam from 6 to 9 p.m. on Main Street, Fort Mill. And you must be a local vendor in Fort Mill, York County, in order to apply. We have arts, crafts, business, service, and nonprofits that can be a part of this event. But it is mainly featuring our downtown merchants, food, music, and kids' activities. And Puckerbutt Pepper Company is one of our proud sponsors. And our Puckerbutt stage will be presenting live music from Brooks Dixon Band, which is a very popular South Carolina favorite. But all those vendor applications can be found on our website as well. And then on Friday, May 1st, since we don't have room at the festival this year to actually put the car show, we are having it at the YMCA at the complex on Tom Hall Street. We want everybody to come out for a night of family fun, viewing street rods, classics, hot rods, modern muscle cars, and more. We're going to have music and food trucks, and you're welcome to bring blankets and chairs and just hang out and have a good night. And they're going to be giving awards for best car, best truck, Queen's Choice, the best modern muscle, the top 40, and we're limiting it to 100 cars, but all of those cars are going to get special dash plaques from Dixieland Cruisers. And again, that's going to be 6 to 9 p.m., and all of that information is on our website as well. And then on Saturday morning, May 2nd, we want everybody to start your day off at the Fort Mill Church of God on Academy Street in Fort Mill and come by and get some delicious strawberry pancakes. It's all you can eat for $6 per person, and this is put on by the Nation Forward High School Athletic Boosters. So once you get your stomach all full from strawberry pancakes, then you can head on over to the festival. It starts at 9 a.m. and it will go until 10 p.m. that evening. And as it would have said in our previous video earlier, due to upcoming construction scheduled for a portion of Walter Elijah Park as well as the temporary closure of Old Nation Road, the town decided to move the annual event to a one-day festival because of space and parking concerns. But despite these changes, we are still having an exciting week. We have a great week planned of events, as you just heard about. And then some of our festival day highlights are arts and crafts, businesses, nonprofits, and service vendors. We still have rides, balloon artists, face painters. We have our ice cream and hot wings eating contests, which are sponsored by Brewster's and Puckerbutt Pepper Company. And we'll have delicious food in our Bojangles food court and all kinds of strawberry foods and desserts. Our mascot Barry and our beautiful queens will be out there. We have Wrestling for a Reason that always raises money to support a local organization. And of course, many, many strawberries. And then on our Founders Federal Credit Union stage, we're going to start out the morning with our Fort Mill Elementary School choruses at 9 a.m. And then at 10 a.m. we're going to have our opening ceremony. And Catawba Ridge High School chorus is going to be doing our national anthem. And we're going to have some other special treats during that time as well. And then the Fort Mill Church of God at 11 a.m. and 12:30 a.m. p.m. starts our bands for the afternoon, starting out with REO Survivor, Kevin Nichols Band, L.A. Maybe, Thurston Howe, Carolina Soul Band, and Kids in America. And as you can see, it's just a great variety of music that we have. And that's all of them. And then we're going to end our festival week with our brilliant display of fireworks sponsored by Comporium. It's always a special treat to end the week. So all of the information about all of our events, including applications, registration forms, everything, is at scstrawberryfestival.com. And you can also follow us on Facebook for Town of Fort Mill, the SC Strawberry Festival, and the SC Strawberry Festival Pageant, and on Instagram for Town of Fort Mill, SC Strawberry Queens, and SC Strawberry Fest. And then these are just most of our wonderful sponsors that we have. And I mean, we could not do it without their support, and they just make the festival even more special, and we just appreciate them so much. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Jacana? Jacana?
It wasn't mentioned about parking and shuttles. Are we doing it as we've done in the past? And can you describe that, please?
Yes, we will have the same parking as we normally do and free shuttles like we always do. And parking is $5 for all of our usual lots.
schools.
But we'll have all that information updated on our festival website as well.
And there'll be signs in the parking lots that indicate that's where parking
Yes,
is.
yeah, we're gonna have
Are we gonna
signage
push
everywhere.
the, schedule up onto CN2 or the newspaper or anything like that, so people can, even though they're not on our website, they can still see at least what the week of events is?
Yes, we're doing all of that on the CN2 and all of the local channels and our YouTube channel.
And Ms. Cook, the only change in the venue as far as parking is Nation Ford High is no longer a parking and destination and shuttle stop because of the Old Nation Road closure due to
Okay.
the bridge. So,
Okay.
but Fort Mill High would be used, and then there's a collection, a pickup there here on Confederate Street, or is it Monroe White for First Baptist
Yeah.
Church parking lot, Church of God parking lot, and St. John's parking lot.
What about the pasture?
And the pasture is, there's no shuttle service from there, but it is opened, and it's just a walk, you can walk from that pasture, but it will be open again and ran by the Springs Farms.
Okay. And then the venue change of the pancakes, it's typically been at Nation Ford in the past.
That's correct.
So we're changing that venue too.
That's correct.
Jacana, this being your inaugural Strawberry, thank you for a very clear and attractive presentation that
Oh,
you were able
thank
to
you.
give us this evening. I think it's important to note that the Strawberry Festival does more than just provide an event. It connects, if you look through the presentation itself, it allows many, the Elks Club, the schools, the athletic departments, it allows many of our community to come in and make a little bit of money for contributing to the festivities. And you're right, we could not do it without the investment that these folks continue to give to our community year after year. They are wonderful in supporting us and doing what they can to allow us to have a great festival. For those that didn't catch it, the one day is because we will be under construction with the amphitheater. The bridge is out on 21 being replaced. So we have some constraining factors that would not make it appropriate to overstress that for a couple of days. So instead, it really looks nice for a whole week of activities to be spread out that appeal to different people for different things. So thank you so very much. I know it hasn't been an easy thing to take it over in the year we're not able to do it the way we always have. But I think we might find some really interesting changes that we might repeat.
Yes,
So
yeah.
thank you so much.
Thank
Stay
you.
put. I would like to see us, even though we put out an agenda that had you towards the end with new business item number 8 for the South Carolina Strawberry Festival Downtown Jam resolution, and then business item number 9 for the Strawberry Festival resolution. I think instead of holding you all evening, let's just get both of those done, if that's all right with you.
Okay.
Is that okay with you? Okay, good. All right. Council members, new business item number 8, 2020 South Carolina Strawberry Festival Downtown Jam Resolution. A resolution designating Main Street, Tom Hall Street to Academy as the site of a public festival on Wednesday, April 29th, 2020, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., in which alcoholic beverages may be consumed, and to authorize a special event permit for live music and sound amplification. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to accept new business item number 8.
A second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions for Jacana on this business item?
Will alcohol only be served out of the restaurants on Main Street, or will we have, I know we've had a truck before occasionally.
Yes, we will have a beer trailer.
Okay.
And the Fort Mill History Museum will be running that for us.
Very cool.
There are many people that are getting connected to this festival in a very nice way.
Yes.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor with show of hand, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. New business item number 9, 2020 South Carolina Strawberry Festival Resolution. A resolution designating Walter Y. Elijah Park as the site of a public festival at which alcoholic beverages may be consumed, and to authorize a special event permit for live music and sound amplification on Saturday, May 2nd. Jacana is our resource on that. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to accept new business item number 9.
Okay. Do I
I'll
have
second.
a motion and a second? Any questions for Jacana on this particular item? Hearing none, all those in favor by show of hand, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Jacana, thank you so very much.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate
Thank you, council.
All right. We're going to go back to, there are no old business items. So we will begin with new business item number 1, first reading and public hearing. An ordinance amending the zoning ordinance for the town of Fort Mill, Article 2, requirements by district, Section 29, institutional district, to establish requirements for hospitals, to provide for a public hearing, and to provide other matters relating thereto. We will open the public hearing now. Anyone that would like to speak to this? Bueller? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing, and we will move into the first reading. Do I have a motion on this reading?
I make a motion to defer new business item number 1.
I'll second.
I have a motion to defer and a second. Any questions for Penelope? No questions?
I'm interested in the deferral motion.
We instituted that designation for schools, for libraries, for government, not to include hospitals. And when it was created, we distinctly said it's not to be a catch-all just because we can't think of sticking it someplace else. So that is why I'm doing it. The whole premise of it was to take a bunch of property that was cobbled together, which is what the schools do when they buy. There might be an industrial piece, there could be an R15, R5.
All right.
So that we can put it all under one banner, so then we're not surprised by suddenly having 500 apartments sitting there when we weren't expecting that. So I think that we can defer that out until planning can go ahead and find a different designation. And if you guys don't agree with the defer and you want to go to a mixed use, which mirrors everything else that's sitting over there at Kingsley, then I'm happy to change my motion.
Just was wondering.
Any other questions in regards to the motion and second to defer new business item number 1?
Mayor, can I say something?
Please.
If the intent, Mr. Shire, is to defer until we can change something, I would recommend just denying first reading, because that way, when we do come up with an alternative, we don't have to bring back the request to take it to institutional and the alternative. And we can just come forward with the alternative if the desire is for it to not be institutional.
Okay, I was in the reverse of thinking that if we deferred it, that gave you time to work it through, as opposed to a definite
We would have to
no.
bring it forward through the new process. Through the
Okay,
planning
then I
commission.
amend my motion to a denial of new business item number 1.
I think Barry's.
I would vote on the deferral motion. I
All
will
right.
come back with your amendment.
All those in favor of the motion on the table to defer, please signal aye by show of hand. No, you got a deferral, you got 1, 2, do it again. For deferring this motion, please by show of hands say aye. None. Now, we have a second motion to deny this particular item. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor of denying new business item number 1, please by show of hands say aye. Aye. All those not in favor? Thank you. All right. New business item number 2, first reading and public hearing, an ordinance amending the zoning map of the town of Fort Mill so as to change the zoning designation for the York County tax map numbers, my favorite part, 02009011015, containing approximately 40 plus or minus acres located along Highway 160 and Highway 21 bypass from highway commercial to institutional. I believe this relates to the same as new business item number 1. We will open the public hearing. Anyone like to speak to this particular item? Hearing none, we're going to close the public meeting. Now, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to deny new business item number 2.
I'll second.
I have a motion to deny and a second. Council, do you have any questions in regards to this particular item? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say and show hand. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Thank you so much. New business item number 3, first reading and public hearing. An ordinance amending the zoning map of the town of Fort Mill so as to change the zoning designation for York County tax map numbers 0202001, 036, 0201301, 075, and 0202001, 034 from R15 residential to institutional. This would be in effect in wards 1 and 4. Penelope is our expert. We'll open the public hearing. Anyone like to speak to this particular item? We'll close the public hearing. I need a motion on new business item number 3.
I make a motion to accept new business item number 3.
And I'll second.
Okay, I have an acceptance and a second. And I think it's important to point out that this is in relation to a school, correct?
Yes, elementary school number 10 and 10 and 11.
And
Two
11,
elementary
yes.
schools.
Good evening. It's for elementary 10 and 11, and we also found a small parcel next to the Riverview Elementary that is owned by the school district, and that is the third parcel that we'd like to rezone to the institutional zoning district. Planning Commission recommended approval as well.
Okay, cool. Everybody understand what you're voting on? We have a motion on the table to accept and a second. All those in favor by show of hand, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Thank you very much. New business item number 4, first reading and public hearing. An ordinance amending the zoning ordinances for the town of Fort Mill, Article 1, in general, Section 8, Transportation Impact Analysis, subsection F, Transportation Mitigation Agreement, to provide for a public hearing and to provide other matters relating thereto. We'll open the public hearing. Close the public hearing. All right, do I have a motion on new business item number 4?
I make a motion to accept new business item number 4.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion to accept and a second. Do we have any questions, comments? Hearing none?
Yeah,
Do you want to
there's
say
none.
anything, Ms.
Yeah.
Penelope?
No, it's just basic, it's just a formality. We were having some issues with, it's just the wording is better for any applicable parties to sign the mitigation. We've come, for an example, there might be a road like the Parkway that today it's owned by the county, but it's going to be transitioned to the SCDOT. So we felt like the language would be better with all applicable parties for the
Okay.
transportation mitigation agreement. Planning Commission recommended approval as well.
Thank you.
So
That's-
it looks like it's basically just one sentence is kind of changing
Yes.
context. Okay.
That is correct.
All right, any questions for Penelope? Hearing none, the motion on the table is to accept, and we have a second. All those in favor, please, by show of hand, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Thank you so
Thank
very
you.
much. New business item number 5, first reading. No public hearing. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances for the Town of Fort Mill, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 4, Finance and Taxation, Division 4, Development Impact Fees, so as to update the development impact fees for the town as mandated by the South Carolina Development Impact Fee Act. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to accept new business item number 5.
And I'll second.
I have a motion to accept and a second. Do we have any discussion or questions for Mr. Pettit, who will be the resource for this particular one? Hearing none?
Can I ask one question?
Slow down.
Of course.
Slow down.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Whoa.
Was he-
Mr.
Speak up.
Pettit,
No
on
written
Friday night,
invitations.
I was watching the NBA game, Bucks versus Lakers. I was also going through this at about 11 o'clock, and I emailed you and David, and y'all were probably thinking, does he not have a life? But I wasn't around. Well, actually, the first meeting I ever came to was in 2015, when y'all were, I guess, hashing out impact fees. So what, if you don't mind, just a quick breakthrough, how's the CIP developed? And was that through in-house, I'm sure, assessments and and/or work with your consulting firm?
So, both the CIP and the development impact fee study, which that's items 5 and 6, were developed using a consultant and in-house staff. So the development impact fee study was primarily done with a consultant, and they look at basically the state law defines how you are to look at impact fees. So we look at all of the capital assets that the town has in a variety of different categories, like parks and recreation, fire protection, and municipal facilities. And we basically try and determine what the per capita or per employee impact a new business or any new development would have in the town. And so every 5 years we make those calculations and bundle it all up into the development impact fee study report, which is new business item number 5. And again, that's a state law requirement because every 5 years those numbers are going to change. From that study, we look at, all right, what capital improvements are necessary because of growth. And so that's what goes into the capital improvements plan. And that's a plan that's put together mostly by town staff and looking at what state law says is eligible for impact fee funding, what are our needs in town in parks and recreation, municipal facilities, and fire protection, and how can we use impact fee dollars to pay for those. So it's a plan developed mostly by staff, and we do approve it once every 5 years, but we amend it within the 5-year time frame. I think we're on our 3rd revision of our CIP that we adopted in 2015. But we intend to annually bring that through council during the budget process to make sure that any project that is eligible for impact fee funding is on that list, because it gives us the flexibility to, throughout the year, spend impact fee dollars on that kind of revolving list of projects.
And so the new maximum allowable is up roughly from 2,500 and some change up to 3,139 per residential dwelling. What I'm reading.
So
It's table 5.4. I took a picture with my phone because I didn't want to have to thumb through 400 pages.
yeah, for a new single-family home, basically there's two numbers to look at. There's the maximum allowable by state law, and then there's the adopted version of council using discount rates. So the consultant recommends a discount rate of 10% minimum. Because that gives some flexibility should any fee ever be challenged. So when looking at our current fee structure and the discount rates that were approved by council in 2015 of 10% for Parks and Rec, 50% for fire protection, and 50% for municipal facilities and equipment, a new single-family home pays $1,822.
What's the max allowable now that's currently in the ordinance?
The
So
maximum
2,500?
allowable would be that number you quoted.
No, not the new one, but the current one, under current.
The current ordinance,
Is it around 2,500?
yes, sir.
Okay. You don't have to call me sir, we're the same name. You can call Larry sir.
I'm not as old as you. Let the record
I do have a
reflect.
little more hair than him, it's more gray.
The maximum allowable today for the 3 categories that we're discussing this evening is about $2,500.
Okay.
I think prior to, this being presented as an item, much of the discussion that we've had has been around the benefit of the impact fee dollars that has been collected to date, with the things that we're eager to provide for our community and use it for. But I think it should never escape us to put parameters around whatever we collect, we have to have a plan for, and we have to be restricted in how we use it based on the requirements of the program itself.
Right.
We can't collect people's tax money without some idea of what we're collecting it for. Just for the transportation one alone, we had a great deal of discussion the first time this came, that we couldn't ever collect enough to fund a new road. We couldn't collect enough for a new driveway. So based on the current rates that are there to produce those types of things that everyone would like to see. Certainly, we've been reluctant to collect people's tax money without being able to know we could use it for the right things. So we did not, at that time, approve the transportation piece related to, we just have to give it right back based on program criteria. So I think that's pretty important, because traffic and transportation come up regularly as items that everyone would like to see us improve. There's so much to be said about that particular issue and what control we have and what we don't. So just know that we never said yes to the transportation piece because it wasn't anything we were going to be able to use.
Plus, it impacted commercial development the worst.
It did impact
right?
commercial
Yeah,
development.
solely funded by, and then the mayor hit a good spot too, is we cannot retain this money indefinitely.
Nope.
There is a
has to be
sunset
spent.
attached to the funds that are collected that we have to allocate them towards a project, and then there's a time schedule we have to follow to spend it on that project, so it's not like we just sit on that money forever and ever.
And it's not always the clearest path either. You know, every time I ask a question, it seems to be, there's a, oh, yes, but, yes, but, yes, but. But I do think that until we see further evidence that we'd be able to collect in that category and make a difference, I personally would not be willing to take that money just by chance we'd hold it for 3 years and have to return it.
Who do you return it to?
The same people that paid it.
People that pay it.
The other portion is we tend to work with the entities coming to us to make the road improvements. We made some significant changes to requiring TIAs prior to approval, and so we're already getting them to pay significantly more in improvements than what that we would have collected in impact fees.
And it's actually a better way to acquire those improvements. If you're going to bring the density and you're going to bring the traffic, then it's a much better way to do that regulatory oversight that we've added in our ordinances and our development agreements to say TIA first, traffic analysis first, and then we'll decide what you can and can't put there. So I think we've made progress. I do. I think our development agreements are a lot better than they used to be. We're certainly continuing to look at ways to strengthen those so that we know exactly what we're agreeing to for our community going forward. Do you have any additional questions in regards to the item that we have on the agenda?
So as to the impact fees are part of the capital improvement plan, but our capital improvement plan needs to be updated. How is this gonna work?
So there's two separate business items. New business item number 5 is the update to the development impact fee ordinance. That ordinance sets the maximum allowable fees and the discount rates that council ultimately adopts again. In 2015, it was 10% Parks and Rec, 50% for municipal facilities and fire protection, and 100% on transportation. We've gone through and studied those fees with the exception of transportation. Staff recommended discount rates of 10% for all categories, and the Planning Commission did as well. And again, that was kind of the recommendation for the minimum discount rate from our consultant. So that's new business item number 5. New business item number 6 is the update to the CIP.
This is it.
But I don't see anything new on the CIP.
The CIP is kind of a rolling list.
All right, well, here's what I'm asking. So we have a rolling list that we haven't updated yet, and we're saying we're gonna raise the amount of money that we're gonna collect from the impact fee, but we don't know why we're raising it because we think we need to raise it. I'm trying to justify why I'm about to say, hey, y'all are gonna pay some more money when we don't have an active list that says, well, this is why. So if I'm gonna pay an extra $100, you better show me why I'm paying an extra $100.
But the list is quite large. In defense of what I think now I'm understanding, we haven't run through the list and paid for the items that we have begun on the list. Is that not correct?
That's correct. I mean, we're in the process or have final paid for the new town hall. That's one project that we've essentially completed. But the fire station number 2 is ongoing. We don't collect enough money to check projects off the list as fast as time goes by. So the projects do stay on the list for some time, 5 years plus, but we have checked some off. We did purchase some additional park properties out in front of Dobie Bridge Park using impact fee funds, but there's still a need for additional parkland. So that item has still stayed on the CIP, even though we did purchase additional parkland in the last 5 years.
Is the public, going through this, I noticed the Public Works Operations Center, new one was on there. I was pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I think.
Well, and as to what you just said, Fire Station 2 is still on the list. Town Hall relocation is still on the list. Fire engine 1 is still on the list. I mean, there's a lot of knuckle boom trucks still on the list, refuge trucks still on the list. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we've accomplished on here. So now I'm gonna vote this in, I'm gonna raise tax, or not the tax, but impact fee. Then I'm gonna vote in a list that's not accurate. When are you gonna come back with a new accurate list to justify what I just voted in?
So we'll bring the CIP to you annually as a part of the budget process.
Week from now, 2 weeks from now? Because it's obviously out of date, so
It's
a little
Just
bit
said as
sooner
a
than
part of the
annually.
budget process is what
Yeah,
you just said.
as a part of the budget process, we'll bring it back to you. But we purposefully include more projects on there than we necessarily intend to do within 1 year. It's a 5 to 10 year horizon that we included on there. And the purpose for doing that is to give us and council flexibility in how to use those dollars. We collect impact fee dollars, and you cannot spend them on anything that's not on that list. So, for example, as the town continues to grow, we have 2 fire stations, we'll need a 3rd fire station. We have current sites in Mason's Bend for a future fire station, 1 in the northern portion of town. We can't build both at the same time, just using impact fee dollars, but both are on the CIP because we may not decide to fully move forward with both of them in the next 5 years, but we may decide to fully plan out the site plan and the building plans for those. We could use impact fee dollars for that if they're both on the list. So they're both on the list for flexibility's sake, not necessarily to say that we're gonna move forward with which one right now.
I think Mr. Shirey was asking, when are we gonna move things off of the list that we've completed and paid for?
The items that have been completed, the town hall remains on there because it was carried over from the last one because there was a potential expansion potential with that one. So it remains on there because of that potential and because council voted to pay ourselves back for the purchase of the new town hall. So when we purchased the new town hall, we didn't have the full amount in impact fee dollars. But what we did was we used some money from another fund to basically borrow, and then we've been paying the municipal facilities impact fee fund back as money has come in. In order to do that, it must remain on that list. So it's an old project, it's kind of done, but it's kind of not done, and that's why it remains on the list.
Are there any projects on the list that are complete and should come off?
No, ma'am.
None. Okay. And we didn't borrow from Social Security to pay for any of this?
No, ma'am.
So basically, and I know I'm asking a lot of questions, so bear with me because I wasn't around last time, but so we're saying the new, and correct my terminology, we're going from 2,500 per home roughly to 31. I know we're not going to go to 3139 because that's 0% discount. So that over 5 years, and give me your planning and interpretation, you're saying that the incremental cost of a home went up $639 based off of the CIP.
New homes.
New homes.
New construction.
New homes. I know it's new only.
So the maximum allowable fees have changed because each individual fee has a number of variables that go into it. And I'll take Parks and Rec, for example. In the last 5 years, since 2015, the town has taken ownership of Walter Elijah Park, of the complex. Those are things that we used to lease. And because of the formalities of the way state law is, we couldn't count those as assets if we leased them.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we own them, that's a change in a variable that goes into the study. Another change in the variable is the population. So the Parks and Recreation impact fee only applies to residential, and it is a per capita fee. So we take all of our assets in the town, we create a value, we do a few other things that I don't necessarily get into, but then we determine a per capita value. So since the population has changed, that per capita value for Parks and Recreation has changed, so the maximum allowable fee is different than it was in 2015. And so that applies across the board. So we're saying now in 2020 that the impact a new residential single-family home has is different than it was in 2015. And it's different by a dollar amount of about $1,000 based off staff's recommended 10% discount across the board. If we were to remain with the discount rates that are currently in place, the fee would go to $21.66, where it's at $18.22 today.
Okay, I want to make sure that Mr. Shirey feels we've answered his question. And I do agree that we should not charge taxes we don't have plans for. That would be wrong. And I do agree that we should charge taxes for the things we're paying for that current taxes are not paying. New growth pays for its own. I think what I'm hearing is that perhaps with our capital improvement plan, we never had one before this first go around with impact fees. I've been here since 2003 on this bench. We never had one. And the first time I saw it, I thought, I was the one councilwoman that called it a wish list because it was yay big. You know, we went from nothing to yay big. So I think refining that and getting closer to targeting what it is we want and our community wants is the job that we've been attempting to do more recently. We're looking much more carefully at what are the things that we need to provide, should provide, or perhaps do better upkeep on the ones we have, tennis courts as an example. But I do understand the disconnect in just doing it for the sake of doing it. And I also understand the list itself is not complete, and we have not gotten to completion. So does that help bridge?
It does, and maybe I was coming at it a different way. I mean, I know some of this stuff. I mean, it was, how many people were here on council when we first did the impact fee? So less than half of us were not here. And to try to get them to digest what's going on and look at a list that was done back then, and not thinking that the community that we live in hasn't gone fluid, so the things that we may have identified on our CIP list may not be what the community wants now. I guess that's where I'm coming from. We need to look at that thing and to make sure the things that we have recognized and that we are going to allocate monies to is what the community is looking for. I can build 1,000 gyms, but if only 30 people are going to use them, why did I build them? When everybody wants to be part of the trail that's going to be coming down with the Carolina Thread Trail.
I see a mixture, because I wanted to be prepared for this because I wasn't around 5 years ago. I was standing out there. I was throwing rocks at all hell back then. No, just kidding. But, you know, I see some of the mix, like you're talking, Jamie, of older projects and new. I see there's a gym here, the new fire stations you guys discussed, the amphitheater, all the new things like you mentioned that we've acquired. So it is a lot.
It was very daunting. When we first took this on, it was very daunting. And it caused a lot of strife and a lot of headache. So I just want to make sure and I think we did it right. I just want to make sure we continue on that right path. I don't want us to be complacent and be like, oh, well, we did this before, let's just go ahead and vote it back through again. We got to make sure that we have all the I's dotted and all the T's crossed.
Because the mayor's going to throw that phone at me when I ask this question.
Let me get ready. I got a better.
I understand that different entities, as you and I have discussed, are different entities. And I know that different municipalities who have impact fees use different consultants, and they have different metrics, and they have different home counts, and they have a lot of different CIPs and wish lists. But educate me as I'm going through TKKs. I just looked Friday. I was going through everything, looking at different things, and I was just shocked at how high their max available. Or they're collecting almost $7,000 per single dwelling home, and I was like, wow, that's a lot. You know, I mean that on top of what people are already having to pay.
Is your question why we're not charging that much?
No, I'm just in my mind just trying to see
why are we not charging that
if
much?
an incremental house in TKK is $6,600 and we're saying an incremental house in Fort Mill's $31, new home. I'm just trying to figure out where's the 35, 37 difference coming.
I
understand
there's a lot of
levers.
reasons.
I know there's different metrics.
Yeah,
I understand that, but I was floored when I saw.
There's a lot of reasons. And I haven't fully studied their list to compare, but a couple things. One, they own a golf course, and they include that as a part of their Parks and Rec, which pushes it up quite significantly.
Yeah, I can see that.
And one of the things that's a blessing and a curse from an impact fee perspective is we get a lot of items donated to the town. The Walter Elijah Park was donated to the town. The complex was donated to the town. The property we built the fire station on was donated to the town. Waterside Park was donated to the town. You know, I could continue. That's great from one hand, but from an impact fee perspective, for a period of like 10 years, we can't count that really as an asset, because one of the things in the weeds of things that you have to do is you have to look at the donations that you've received and count that as a credit, because the idea is going forward for the next 10 years, we're still going to get other people to donate things to us too. So it'd be double dipping to basically say, to include that as an asset, but then to not think of future donations. So that's one of the things that it basically negates itself for a period, I think, of 10 years.
Right, and that makes sense that their Parks and Rec is $4,300 is because of. all
So
the
again,
national
I think they
awards.
own more outright and perhaps have had less donations than we have. And we've had some sizable donations.
Right, yeah,
that-
I agree.
Well, their
that-
plans exceed ours on many fronts. They get out there and they make some very large decisions that are a long time coming. You know, their park that they were planning down on the Catawba has been on their boards for many years, many years. So I think we might be a little more conservative in how we go about saying we're going to do something. We pretty much want the money in the bank, and we want to be able to ensure what we start, we're going to finish. But I do think it's an intriguing question. I like the explanation from a golf course standpoint and an asset value. I kind of wonder if we can't look at that from the standpoint of like with the complex. We were very, very grateful to get it, but we've spent a significant amount of money bringing it up, and we're not there yet to where it should be. So should there not be some depreciation or some discount, you know, for when we do get something donated that we have to invest in just to make it right?
It has its value still. It was probably a depreciated value for sure, some of the deferred maintenance and things of that
Right.
nature, but it still had a sizable $10 million plus value, I think, associated with it. So from the bottom line and an impact fee calculation, that is shown as a credit that we don't get to take advantage of for quite some time, which is why our impact fee dollars, I believe, are lower than what TDK's might be.
So, for those of you that wonder, what is all this about? We as a town have not raised taxes but once in about 20 years now. All the previous councils I've worked with were extremely reluctant to ask the citizens of Fort Mill to pay more. You know, we just felt like that was the wrong thing because the majority of people that lived here built the town. You know, so we were trying not to lean on them any harder than we had to. We have a lot of new people now, and we have a lot of needs. With new people come expanded needs. The impact fees have certainly provided us an avenue to try to catch up a bit. We're all passionate about not taking people's money unnecessarily and not having projects we can't finish or do our best with. So this discussion is not antagonistic as much as it is passionate to do the right thing by the people that pay for us to sit here and pay for us to run the town. So, given that, the motion on is there any further discussion that needs to take place?
Chris, I wanted to ask, I know there was one change since the last time in regards to the state and how impact fees are collected, not penalizing the school district. So will you discuss the
Yes.
changes since the
So
last time?
Beyond simply updating the numbers, the ordinance has been amended to represent the latest version of state law. And that does include an exemption for schools as well as volunteer fire departments. So we've updated the language to reflect what state law has from that perspective. So a new school comes in. When we started, that was a major point of discussion. We didn't want to charge a school an impact fee. Now, if a school comes in, it's exempt, and so we've reflected the ordinance to include that.
Okay.
So are the only exemption schools and volunteer fire departments?
There's a
we have
number
to charge ourselves an impact fee?
We
for
do
our-
have to. We paid an impact fee to build our fire station. So yeah, we do
say
have to
small.
charge ourselves. Because arguably every new construction has an impact to the system, and so if there is an impact, unless state law explicitly exempts it, we have to charge ourselves for that.
Well, and I would like us to be sure that the projects we're working on, and I know we're working on a strategic plan as well, but some of these that are on the CIP, that we're doing something to justify the need. So if we do have impact fees available, let's make sure we get the site plans or whatever our next step is to make sure that needs to stay on the CIP. So, whether it's a consultant and, let's make sure that we're going in a direction that makes sense for the taxpayers.
Well, I think it's fair to say openly that this council has had numerous discussions in regards to the order of importance of the items on the CIP. We do not all agree on that order. It has been challenging at best for us to get our arms around what's the right order. It's like, and I've used this example, it's like giving me a bunch of money and saying, go to South Park and do some shopping. I'm not coming home with any money. I mean, it's just not going to happen. So we don't have a problem finding things to spend it on. We just have a problem with deciding what are the important items we need to get to first. So
And safety has always been first.
Safety has to be first. Fiduciary responsibility, employees, asset values. It's not hard to get the big buckets lined up. It's just hard once we get to the ones that are nice to have. We really get eager to do something besides maintain things. And if you don't do that in your own household, you're telling a story. You know, everybody wants a bigger TV or a pool or something that's just not necessary, as my mom would say. It's just not necessary. So we're doing the same thing, and we're trying to be good stewards to the monies that are paid in by taxpayers. With that, we have a motion to accept and a second. Everyone ready to vote? All those in favor, please, by show of hands, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Thank you so much for the care and concern that you use in discussing these items. New business item number 6, first reading, an ordinance adopting the Town of Fort Mill Capital Improvements Plan for fiscal year 2019 through 2020 and fiscal year 23 through 24. Chris Pettit is our expert on that. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to accept business item number 6.
Got a motion to
second.
accept and a second. All right. Did we wear this one out with the previous one, or do we have more comments we need to make?
I'm done.
Well, I mean, I think it's important to note that most of the things that are on here are pretty significant capital projects. That, as we talked about earlier, there's not enough funding to do them all.
Right.
And priorities will, priorities will definitely have to come into place with it.
And I think, too, it's important to note that on this particular agenda tonight, what you see on the board, we have 3 pages of items. I can tell you that what this council was tasked with was, 600-700 pages of information.
This document alone was 50.
Yeah, it's pretty overwhelming for us to try to get to the top in understanding when it's not something we deal with on a day-to-day basis, but it is something we care deeply about. So we're just trying to be careful. With that, I do look forward to council deciding the order that we feel that should be and passing that through the proper channels. We have an acceptance and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Thank you so much. New business item number 7, first reading an ordinance adopting the 2040 comprehensive plan for the town of Fort Mill. Our expert is Chris Pettit. Do I have a motion? This one's a hard one. This one's a hard one.
I'll make a motion to approve for discussion's sake.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion to approve and a second. Want to talk about it?
Absolutely. So this one's 250 pages worth, so it was a lot to comprehend on top of everything else.
No pun intended.
Yes, exactly. Poet didn't know it. But, Chris, why don't you get us started in the discussion?
Sure. So the comprehensive plan, it's a policy document that kind of outlines the existing conditions in town, future needs and future goals on a variety of topics. Over the last several years, town staff, we've worked with the Planning Commission, a public advisory committee of almost 40 people, the Catawba Regional Council of Governments, to take a look at what the town of Fort Mill would be through the lens of the year 2040. In addition to working with those groups, there was an extensive public engagement process that kind of helped develop that overall vision for the plan. As you mentioned, it's 250 plus pages, so it's a little difficult to provide an overview of all of that. But we have received quite a bit of input through those channels. we've reviewed the document as staff and feel as though it is reflective of all the input that was received. And so staff is recommending in favor of approval of the document as well as the Planning Commission. That being said, the town is certainly ever evolving. So this year we have the U.S. Census. It's the first time in 10 years with the 2020 census. So the information that we gain from that will be very valuable in rethinking the plan and relooking at it. So one of the things that we're kind of committing to as staff is doing a better job moving forward of providing updates and really basically starting, once this document's approved, starting an update process to continue to look at it with the Planning Commission, Council, members of the public, to make it a fluid document that's ever evolving, just like the town is.
So if we ran across an issue that we were just unhappy with and felt there was a need, something changed, and we felt we needed to make a change, we can do that without it being a 5 or a 10-year update. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So the comp plan is really just to set a framework to work in. Is that correct?
It's a working framework, and every time we've updated the CIP in the past, we've amended the comp plan to include the latest version. That's just one example.
With the approval of first reading, I think it would be important for us to sit down with you between this and the second reading, and you outline the things that have changed. Because I think that's, for us, 250 pages, it's just a little smaller than the UDO. That's a lot. It's a lot for us to do properly, and I think that's our desire. We want to do it right. So I am willing to support first approval, or if we were to defer it, that's fine with me too. But I think no matter what, we need to sit down and talk about what, if anything, is changing and why.
Well, and I believe we're getting the cart in front of the horse, seeing we haven't even had our own planning workshop.
Mm-hmm.
And this is supposed to be the document that encompasses everything that we've talked about during the planning, but
It's a different level, but you're right. It's a framework for us to work in. And if any of the projects that we're considering or the changes that are coming towards us would have impact to the comp plan, then we need to elevate those quickly. My problem is that we have this plan, and then we have this list, and then we have our own planning efforts, and then we have a budget planning cycle. And I want to see some continuity among all of them, so that there's a thread that someone could follow that doesn't do this on a regular basis. So that would be my desire. I don't think, Chris, is anything significant changing in the plan that you hope to file?
Compared to our existing plan, I would say there's probably 3 main differences. Based off the input received through those groups and the public, we've added language in there that should a future development come in, that would probably enhance what requirements there would be for roadway connections. Traffic is an issue in town, and so additional connectivity is something that's spoken to in the plan.
Not again.
Connectivity from an overall perspective of the transportation network, not necessarily at the neighborhood level.
Yeah, I'm gonna run my head through a wall.
Connecting multiple neighborhoods, but from a overall perspective, if you have a large tract of land, then maybe there's a collector road that needs to go through it that will assist the surrounding existing transportation network to help that development fit into the overall fabric of the town. So that's one item. Additional trail connections, council, it's been a month or 2 ago, adopted a resolution in support of changing the Carolina Thread Trail and bringing that through downtown. So we've built upon that in the new plan and have some language in there that would help us achieve that vision of having the Carolina Thread Trail come through town. And then the third kind of key change is related to density in some of the outlying areas of town. The plan.
This is good change.
Yes, ma'am. The plan, compared to our current version, it lowers the density in those undeveloped areas that are
we all
kind of
high
on the
five?
friendship
Yes,
of town. So those are the 3 main changes. There are certainly others, but those are probably the key ones that I would pull
So
out.
lowering density, the trail program that we definitely want to participate in, and
Let's call it traffic. addressing
don't.
traffic.
Let's don't.
I think we could even add something to it when you started getting these larger developments where they have, so we don't get into a pickle again, identifying a commercial zone that's attached to that community so that they can have their own kind of support commercial entity in there, maybe a pizza place, whatever.
We do require that in some cases, or we have.
Yeah, mixed use
Mixed
district
use,
is an
yeah.
example that typically is a.
But I think if we start getting into these 200, 300 home communities, though, they need to have their own little entity over there.
I'm in great hopes that we're pretty close to not having to do those, because we're about out of land. I know the public's out of patience, and you haven't seen us approve anything for quite some time. So, hopefully we can take this and continue to make better and better decisions as we move forward. Jamie, are you satisfied to pass it on first reading?
So after we go to our planning workshop and we come up with something that's gonna change the comprehensive plan, how long does it take to get that? Do we have to go through a whole new set of readings?
Depends on it depends on what the change is. If it's significant, we'd take it back through planning commission. But whether it's approved first reading or not, we'd basically follow the same process.
So is that a 30-day or a 60-day? Is it 2 readings?
It's 2 readings, yes, ma'am.
So can we do them in 2 council meetings in the same month, or do they have to be 30 days apart?
They have to be, I think, a week apart, but one of the things that we do have to do is a 30-day public hearing notice. So,
So 37 days is the minimum, is
Right.
what I'm hearing. Is that correct?
plus or minus, yes, ma'am.
Sure.
All right.
Chris, what would the consequences be if we decided to defer till after the census was in versus starting the framework now?
Very good question.
Thank you.
It would depend on if anyone had a problem with that. There's
Anyone up here or anyone out there?
no, I mean, if someone were to come in and try and challenge that, the state gives requirements of when you have to look at the plan. There's no comprehensive plan police out there looking at things like that, but if someone were to challenge something, there could be implications.
The likelihood would be, however, that the census is going to show the enormous growth that we've experienced. So the likelihood is that a challenge would be more easily defeated with census information than what we have right now. Correct?
That makes sense.
When is the deadline to have it? I mean, state law recommends it. I mean, you want to be compliant with the law.
So, I mean,
We
the
already
state
have
law
it.
is very rigid and says every 5 years you have to rewrite it, every 10 you have to do it new. We have looked at it, kind of outside the boundaries of that strict sort of time frame. So it's debatable what that time frame is, but I would say it's probably recommended that we do move forward with this.
And back to the comment of the 3 main differences, the current one we have today that we're looking at is more strict than what's currently in place when it comes to development.
The one we currently have in place, it allows for higher density,
Okay.
and it has less language that we could use to do the things that we think we need to do, such as the trails and the transportation enhancements. So the new one is better from that perspective.
Perfect. That's what I need
And
to
I
hear.
think if we just go under the guise of, we're gonna probably be looking at this thing next year after the census comes through.
Well, I'd like to preset that we definitely look at it within 90 days of receiving
The
the census
census.
information, that we have some type of a deadline to it, rather than just saying, after the census, we'll look at it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I
agree
would
with that.
like to make that a part of it.
I agree with that. We've got to get better about setting dates.
Is 90 days adequate? Because I originally wanted to say 60, so.
I mean, the census isn't going to be done till probably.
No, from when we receive our data from the government.
I haven't worked
Not old enough for a
in a
census.
community where we received.
You weren't born.
Welcome to adulthood, Christopher.
I do know that census data between the 10-year census comes in chunks. So I don't know if it'd be all at once or come in chunks, but we could certainly, once we had the information generally from the 2020 census, within 90 days, come to you with our thoughts of what might need to be changed in that.
Because some of it isn't going to apply to us, and some of it is, and
Oh, I was just
I think
sitting here-
90 days is a sufficient number.
I do, from the time we receive the data.
Yeah.
But then again, if the stock market crashes and the coronavirus kills off half of us, it won't be any good anyway.
Won't make
So,
any difference.
It won't make any difference. So are you satisfied with?
Yes, ma'am.
You are? Okay, are you?
Given that we're reducing
Are
high
you?
density,
Are you?
music.
Everybody? All right. So we're going to vote. We have a motion to accept and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Thank you so much. With that, we will now move to an information and discussion item with Debbie Harden and Shantae Bowler on the Tyler software update. Thank you both for being here and sitting through all that.
A lot quicker than I expected, honestly. A lot quicker than I expected. We all did. That hour I did at lunch, but.
While we're waiting, is that, can I have my Boy Scout folks in the back raise their hands and speak and tell us who you are? Please. You are?
Cooper?
I've met you before, haven't I? Your dad's Sam, right? Nice to have you. And you are?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you both for joining us. Are you working on a badge or are you just here for entertainment and giggles? Awesome. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. And do we have a leader?
Yep, I'm Michael DiNapoli. I'm their down leader. So they're from Tag 832 here in Fort Mill, and they are the town's most recently awarded Arrow of Lights, which is the highest badge of the Cub Scouts as they bridge into Boy Scout rank.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. We love our Boy and Girl Scouts and we love to have them in attendance, but I think it's always important for them to feel comfortable standing up and telling us who they are. So thank you for joining us. We appreciate you being here.
I heard there was a big Pinewood Derby that just happened this past weekend. How'd y'all do? Good?
There was.
Well, thank
Beat
you.
out by some of the younger kids this time, but
Oh my.
it's tough competition. The other dads.
I was going to say, the parental involvement matters, huh? Well, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Shantae.
Yes, ma'am.
Evening.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. It is certainly a delight to be before you tonight just to share a little bit with you about our new software application. We have spent quite a lot of time getting to where we are now, but we are beginning to enjoy the fruits of our labor. So I just wanted to share a little bit about what we have up and running now and maybe demonstrate a couple of things for you and what we still have on the horizon. Since our contract signing with Tyler Technologies, we have since gone live with General Ledger, which is the foundation for all that we do in terms of our financial flow, everything that comes in and everything that goes out. And that's where I spend most of my time, in the General Ledger. We have accounts payable up and running. We have purchase orders up and running. Contained within our accounts payable module, we have a sub-module that's called check request, where we are able to produce automated check requests without having to create a piece of paper. Our budget process is up and running. We're also utilizing our purchase cards, our P cards that we have, running those through, we run a dual kind of system with that, using our Bank of America work system and then rolling that into our Tyler system. Those are the credit cards that our supervisors have. And then we process payment through the Tyler system. Our fixed assets is up and running, and our new cashiering, which is where our cashiers take payments over at the business office, is up and running. And our invoicing is up. And the latest two things that really brought some excitement to what we're doing, which was launched back in January, was HR and payroll. And so those features alone has done huge things for us in terms of integration, in terms of scaling, in terms of streamlining. So we're just happy to be able to celebrate these pieces tonight. We still have in process right now InterGov, which Chris Pettit has taken the lead on. And what that is going to do for us is make more of our services more accessible to the public. They are building this from the ground up. So it is taking a lot of thought, it is taking a lot of time, it is taking a lot of effort to put in place the pieces that they want to utilize to keep contractors and vendors and customers and everybody else who don't want to come to Town Hall, make it available to them online. Part of the InterGov process is going to be planning and development and business licenses and permits. So that customer base that has to deal with those types of items will be utilizing the InterGov system to do that, and they can do that from where they are. They'll be able to do things like check on inspections. They'll be able to push plans through to the department digitally without them bringing these big bulky things in and leaving them with them. They'll be able, again, to purchase their business licenses, to purchase their permits. All of those things they will be able to do online. So we are looking forward to that piece going live with us soon. And then the utility billing phase is on the horizon. That is the last phase right now of what we are looking to do. And that was delayed until we get the meter change-out process done. And once we get that complete, then we will get back on the calendar in order to start the implementation with the utility billing. And that piece will also provide some features for our customer base in terms of them being able to see limited information about their accounts, like their consumption history, their billing charges, and be able to pay their bills online. They'll be able to also get their bills emailed to them, which is a feature that we do not have at this time. So each one of these modules has a lot that it is doing for us as staff, but also for the customer at large. And so I want to thank you all for going down this road with us and allowing us to take this journey, because it has been quite beneficial for us. And every day I am grateful for what this system can do. One of the things that it does, it uses scanning images. It's designed to be a paperless system. Now, if we have to print paper, we still can do that. But for the most part, we are weaning ourselves away from these physical file cabinets that we have at the office. Whether you realize it or not, storage is a challenge for us now. But because we're utilizing the system and doing our scanning, the storage is our TCM, which is called our Tyler Content Manager. That's our storage option right now. So what I wanted to do right quick is just give you a little bit of a demonstration about a few things. One of the things that this system does also, there is a flow of data across the various modules. In other words, we do not have to do a lot of the manual things that we had to do before. That was duplication of effort. The system rolls certain pieces of the data from one module to another. And what I wanted to do you have your phone on? One of the things I wanted to do is show you how the purchase order system works. One of the things or features of the system sends us notifications and alerts. This system uses a process called workflows. Those were predefined and pre-set up. So the persons having approval authority get these alerts from us to do their approvals wherever they may be. Some of us have an app. So that means wherever he is, when he gets an email, he can go and perform something. So I created, Mr. Broom, a requisition, but I didn't release it. I'm going to release it to you. I don't know what this is doing.
How about that?
Okay. So the requisition is the beginning of a purchase order. Once the requisition has been approved, then it automatically converts to a purchase order.
So while you're doing that, I'll just say we're coming from 1960 all the way up to 1990.
Yeah, being so frugal, not raising taxes has put our staff behind by 30, 40 years. It is amazing once I found out. What is still done by paper trail and by files and
We're
how.
still hand-signing checks.
Exactly.
Employee checks.
Okay, I gotta find my requisition.
Employees still doing time cards. Till this.
Okay, I created this requisition. It's a test one. So the user can fill in all of the various pieces of information, and most of our department heads are doing this along with their administrative assistants. And as I was talking to you about attaching, so that the approver doesn't have to call you or be looking for other documents to support what you might be doing, they are able to put those attachments within their requisition order. And so over here, I am saying, I've created a requisition to get 510 bunny shirts. And I wanted Mr. Broom to know what they look like.
I'd be interested in that.
Well,
If it's free, it's free.
I think we're gonna find out.
so that's what, it's gonna have that big old bunny on the front of the shirt. So this is my quote that I got from the vendor. And so whenever Mr. Broom would go in here to look at my information and determine whether or not he is going to approve that, is asking me, am I ready to release it? What releasing does is sends it to the next level of approval. And so Mr. Broom is going to get something from me that says he needs to do something.
Okay, so I received it on my mobile app, my phone. So whether I'm in or out of the office, I can always go to this application and review what is being requested to purchase to make sure it meets, it falls within our budgetary guidelines. And so from this mobile device, I can, while this is in a test state, I will approve it this time. Typically, I won't approve this.
Not bunny shirts.
He has the option to do three things. He can approve it, he can put it on hold, or he can reject it. And so, just for our test purposes, he's going to approve it. Okay.
Come in tomorrow and see bunny shirts.
So, as you can see, when he did that, I got a message that says that my requisition has been turned into a PO and that this is my PO number. That's the message that I got when he did that.
Right, wonderful.
Yeah.
So it's gonna save time.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're signed
And
in
paper.
under- You're signed in under your employee number? You have an
I'm signed in
assigned number?
under my username.
Okay.
If any of these users who have permissions to create requisitions did what I just did, then they would get that email
Okay.
saying that he has done that or what he's done.
And as
It
a-
could have very well said that he rejected it.
And as it tallies it out, I saw on one side where you had a punch, it says 204, does it automatically keep track? So you're not getting
Yes, sir,
a
it
repeat?
automatically keeps track of the PO numbers.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And so with that, then I'm able to go ahead and move forward with making a purchase.
Very slick. Very
Okay.
cool.
And so, what I wanted to also show you was what happens when, now I'm going to be using a PO that's already been produced, but I wanted to also show you under the accounts payable side of things. Well, let me show it to you under the ledger side of things because that's where I am most of the time. I'm going into a account inquiry. And this is where I can see budgets and I can see what departments are spending. So I'm going to do a search, and this sample is on the police department. And I'm looking for what they've been spending in their transportation capital account. The system shows me, as you can see here, 4 years worth of information. We're in 2020, so it gives me my budget, and it also gives me what's been spent so far as actual. Any of those file folders that are highlighted means that you can have access to them, and you can see what's in them. So, let's see, that's the wrong one. I want to use the one that I had in 2019. Okay. All right, let's try this one more time. All right, let's try this again. So in 2019, this was how much they spent. When I did that, it showed me every purchase that was in that line item account. And it gives me all of this information right here. Okay? Now, I could select any one of these and get some additional information. Alrighty, we're going to select this item right here. When I clicked on that, it rolled me over into the invoice side of things where I could see additional kinds of information. It shows me the PO number. It shows me what was paid, when it was paid. It also shows me additional invoice details if I want to see them. And here's one of the other features that I'm loving about this system. If you see here in this invoice detail line, you see this A right here? Okay, there's an I right there right now. That means it's been imported. Initially, the question will come up with that A, that meaning, is this an asset? And it would have Y or an N. If you put Y there, it rolls this over into another bucket that holds my assets until I go over there and complete that process. And so that's what this I means, is that this was an asset and it got imported, okay? But it also shows me what budget lines items that we spent this money from. And then going back, I think that's the right one. Oops, that's the right one. All right. So now I want to show you, you see how it's going from one module to the next module without a lot of, just at the click of the button? Yeah. So I wanted to show you from the fixed asset side of things what that looks like. So I'm going to do a search and I'm going to find that asset and I'm going to pull it up. So there it shows me my asset. And a lot of this information that you see here came from that accounts payable side. I didn't have to key it. What we have had to do is start over and key the whole thing.
Rekey everything.
Yes.
Okay.
And so over here also, it shows me additional information about the years of life and any depreciation that we've done thus far on this asset. It gives us that information. It also shows us down here, based upon the number of years, the estimated useful life for this vehicle was programmed at 7 years. It also will tell you, based upon that, when you need to be looking at replacing that. That gives us that right there. That also comes into play with another module that we're looking at, which has to do with the work order side of things and taking care of our
Preventive maintenance.
equipment and vehicles, repairs and things like that, as you see up here. So all of this stuff sort of ties in together. And then I wanted to show you this. Over here, it tells me the account, the budget account, as well as some other accounts that it has to hit, that this vehicle was purchased from. And then under this one, I did, let's see. Well, where is it? Well, I don't see it. I think I might be in a different asset, but what I had done, right here where it says images, you can put pictures of the asset in here. And I did that this morning, and I don't know which asset I did. But that's another feature of this side of things. But I just wanted to show you the continuity between the different modules and how we're not having to sit and retype stuff, and how that makes us more productive, saves us on time, just all kinds of ways that we're being able to see things now and to manipulate data. I wanted to show you.
Should reduce our margin of error. as
Ma'am?
well. It should reduce our margin of error.
It most certainly does.
Now
And I want,
understanding how you were doing things as a town, it amazes me even more so, the financial standings we've gotten from our auditors and all the excellent, I mean, it just speaks to how well you did the job with one hand behind your back, honestly.
well, it takes a lot more looking and checking and effort when we're having to redo it. But I wanted to show you the request for check. Right now, well, before this, whenever there was a need to request payment outside of an invoice, maybe someone was going on a trip and needed their per diem, and so they would fill out a check, a paper form. So this is our new way of doing it. Mayor, you're in here. Mr. Moody, you're in here. Because I requested checks for you on your behalf, and I can go, and it tracks every one that I do, and I can go in there and I can look at it. This was when we were giving you your fees back, your filing fees. And as you can see, I have a description of what that was for, the amount, who it's going to, but I don't know why my attachments aren't showing up. They were this morning. It might be this environment because we're on two different networks. But I did have an attachment in there that showed, that supported us writing that check. And then this particular check request would go to the approving authority. They would look for the support and they could approve it. And then it would roll over into accounts payable to be paid. I'm going to stop trying to show you attachments because I don't think this network likes me. So that's how that feature works. And so I think there's one more. show you.
For clarity, that wasn't for the mayor to pay her fees to file to run for election.
No,
It was
ma'am, that was
because
the
of-
mayor getting her feedback.
Because she had an opponent.
Yes.
Just making sure.
Yes.
It's $100 if there is no opponents, it's 50 if there is, so you
Yes.
pay 100, then you get reimbursed 50, which needs to be an action item to fix.
Right.
For us in the future.
Right.
To
And
fix our
staff will be
ordinance.
bringing that new ordinance to you soon.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so I spoke about budget being up and running, and department heads are able to go in now and put in their budgets directly into the system, where before we were using a spreadsheet that we had developed. And once we got through the budget process, we had to turn around and key all of that stuff into the system. So this way, it starts with the department heads, with them keying in their departmental requests. And then, once they've done that, it rolls to the next step, which is to the town manager, and he starts to have those discussions with them about various things that they might be asking for. And then, when it's all said and done, you guys adopt it, and then it rolls on over into the adopted bucket. And so we're not having to touch it anymore in terms of having to reinvent the wheel. Now, if we have to change something because there's a need to change an amount or a different decision was made, then we'll have to make modifications to that. But having to start over fresh and key all of that into the system, we do not have to do that anymore, thanks to this system. It's really a real robust system. I can't say enough about it. I was looking up something for Philip the other day, and Philip was watching me point and click, just point and click. And he looked at me and he said, "Aren't you glad you don't have to go look that up in a file cabinet?" And I said, "Yes, I am," because that's what we would have to do. If someone calls us, a supervisor calls us and wants to know about a certain thing, a certain item, we would have to go to the file cabinets to pull that stuff. But now they can see this themselves. They have rights to go in and see their own department's information. And so we're just happy. I can't tell you how much this means to me. I'm so happy about the HR and payroll. Debbie's going to talk to you about that, because one of the big pieces of that is that I'll be able to roll over salary information now into the budget without me hand keying 200 and how many employees? 213 full-time employees, where we were keying in a spreadsheet every employee and then calculating the benefits for every employee. This system is going to be doing that for us.
We were so broken.
So I just want to say thank you again for
I can't believe
for
you
allowing
stayed
us.
here as an employee as long as you have and kept your sanity and that smile every time you come to us. Because it literally is 20 years overdue, at least.
Well, I'm just glad we're here now. Yes,
So we get
ma'am.
you another 20 more years, right?
Okay, so I'm going to let Debbie talk to you about the HR side of things, because that is another module that we did not have at all. So Debbie had the opportunity to build that the way she wanted that to roll out as well.
Sean,
Sir.
if you pay through the web, are you still charged a surcharge for credit card?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Most people do that since the charges went up. I think it's important to note that as Debbie comes up, the system is great and it was way overdue. But our employees have had to give a tremendous effort to learn, to contribute to what the system ought to do and how it should do it, and to get it implemented, and the patience that it takes to start using a new system. So that system's pretty good, but it's not as good as you guys are. So thank you so much.
Well, we're just happy to have it. We're just happy to have it because, like I say, it definitely has reduced the time that we spent in having to follow through in processes and just pointing and clicking, and it's all there. And I really wish that my image side would be working, because I wanted to show you how it shows us the invoice, how it shows us the PO, how it shows us the check that was printed for any of the detailed information. So I'm sorry that that isn't working over here.
Okay.
But you did get to see the bunny shirt.
Yeah, we did. We got to see the bunny shirt.
Look
And
forward to it in
did-
my box.
I have one question. Did I understand that it's one day a week that everybody works on that? And the training part of it?
equates to that.
It equates to that,
It
okay.
equates to that.
Yes, ma'am, we put quite a lot of time
Right.
into this, but it was necessary for us to get to this
Sure,
end.
sure, okay.
Thank you, council, and I proudly report to you the self-service portals side of things. Like Shantae said, for HR, it's been spreadsheets and keeping up with numbers with that kind of thing, but this system has been phenomenal in helping us track employees, employee job salaries, employee positions, just pulling up their information at a fingertip. You know, it's just been amazing help for me. And what it does for the employee, and that's what I wanted to show you. So this should link straight into the employee self-service. And I gave you a handout too. But this is my test subject, Jane test. So this is what the employee sees when they log in. We can give them announcements. So you see at the top, we're welcoming them. This is your data at your fingertips. Also can give certain employees, all employees, some departments, one person. It's a gamut of opportunity, but this employee is a building and grounds employee, so I let them know that there's a safety meeting on Wednesday, March the 11th at 2 p.m. Please plan to attend. So we can put messages out there with like that. And then if you'll look at your handout, you'll see that there's also on page 2, there's a required reading. We can also put that on there. So if there's recently, we're doing bloodborne pathogen now, so I can send that policy out to everybody. They click on the required reading part of this portal. They read through it, and then they acknowledge it, and it sends me back the acknowledgement. So it saves time without pulling everybody together for meetings, you know, and requires them to read it and look at it before it's sent back to me. So employees can see their paychecks, utilize a paycheck simulator, get their W-2s this year, W-4 information. They can update their personal information. It is amazing everything that they can do on this portal. They can put in certifications that they get. I can put in certifications on the Munis side, and it rolls right into their employee self-portal. So if I set up a training that they need to come to, I can put it in the Munis side of things. It rolls right into their self-portal, and they can sign up for it. So it's just a wonderful opportunity for them. Sorry. So, and there in the middle was the required reading, and if you would click on that first one, will it let you do that? Okay, but it will take you to that website. And the piece of paper in the corner there at the top, if you pull that down when you go to your portal, it is all the things that employees are involved in, their 401k, the retirement system, beneficiary forms, EAP, I mean, everything that we have lined up for them right there at their fingertips. So they can change their address, send it to me, all of that right here in this portal. And they can also apply for jobs internally. And this will be available to the Citizen Self Portal as well. So for me on the Citizen Self Portal, and I'm not sure what the other departments will be utilizing it for, but for me, they will be able to look at job postings and apply for positions. And then all of the information about the position is available there. And so this is just what a sample of what the application looks like on the portal. And it's this particular application is 5 pages. And we link it to, through Munis, we go in and link it to a recruiter and a department head. And so citizens and employees can go in and fill out all the information, and it goes straight to me to Munis. and then they are given, the citizens are given an email right away as soon as they fill it out. And right now, citizens are having to go online, print the application off, fill it out, send it in, so this will be a great help. We utilized our accountant and as our test, and so she applied for that position for fire marshal, withdrew her application. You see Chief Wilkerson is the hiring manager, with me as the recruiter. This is an exempt position. It gives all the information, and then all of those categories you can double click on, and it takes you to that information for that particular applicant. And though that portal is open to that department, so Chief Wilkerson could see all the applicants for that department. So it's paperless, it goes straight through. But it's an amazing system. We don't have the citizen self-service set up yet. That's our next step. We got the employees all on board. Employees have stations. Those employees that don't have computer access or a town phone have computer access at their stations at Public Works, utilities, so that all employees can take advantage of being able to look at their checks, get their check stubs, apply for positions right there at work.
Are we capturing their picture on
Yes.
there too, so that, you know, if there's ever a question, we've got that safety in
Yes.
place? Okay.
Well, part two of this is everybody has their town badge,
Right.
and so they'll be able to clock in with their badge and with their pictures. Is going to be downloaded into here, and that number on the badge links Munis and with the clock in and out system for payroll. And so we hope to have that a whole system set up by summertime that they'll be using, and then it'll be automated payroll then, so no more timesheets. So it's moving right along. I get ahead of myself. I'm trying not to be 90 miles an hour, but I have to keep telling myself I'm just one person, and we're going to get there. Slow and steady wins the race, but it's been a great transition, and I just thank you all for making it happen and making it happen for the employees as well.
Council?
I appreciate y'all coming. I mean, you know, I mentioned this to both of you at one time when I was passing through getting my mail, and I think Shantae was excited about something that had happened, and Tyler, I was like, you got to tell us about it. We want to be excited for you, and we want to know where the investment is going. So thank you very much for working extra late this evening to present it to us.
Okay, so I found
She
it.
found it.
I was
You guys see
down
a picture
in
of the police
determined.
car. So as you're getting it up, does it also record serial numbers, VIN numbers, that kind of thing?
Now, that piece of it we do put in there, but it's in there. Let me show it. You see right here?
Yep, perfect.
So this is that asset I pulled up. I was in test before, now I'm in the right place. This is a picture of that asset. We have the ability to be able to put that picture image in that asset record, or any asset record, as long as we have the image. And the other piece that I wanted to show to you under the attachment side of things, these are all of the pieces of detail that come with that. The first thing that's populating up here is the invoice. That's the invoice that we can see. Now, all of this is over there under the asset record, but it all came from the accounts payable side of things. And then down here, okay. It just ain't gonna do for me today, but anyway, you see one piece of it. I was going to show you the check as well as the purchase order, but I can't get my screen to show me that today.
I'll take your word for it.
Okay, thank y'all.
But we are doing electronic check transfers for our vendors.
We
to
have
accept
the
them.
option to do electronic checks for our vendors if they so choose.
Okay.
We wanted to get comfortable with the AP system. We wanted our accounts payable staffer to get comfortable with it. And so that's the next feature of that module. that we will offer up. And what that will do for us, because periodically we do get calls from vendors and they say they didn't get their check. So what we have to do at that point, we have to call the bank, we have to stop payment, then we have to void that check in the system, then we have to recreate them as check, and then mail it again. With being able to use the EFT side of things, we would produce their payment and it would go directly to their bank account.
Awesome.
So that's the sweet piece of that. So I'm finished, but thank y'all so
No,
much.
thank you. We are greatly appreciative and echo, and I'm sure all of council echoes Lisa's appreciation for you guys spending the time to help us see what you are accomplishing and gaining, and it's wonderful for all of us. Thank you very, very much. With that, that ends our agenda for this evening. Mr. Huntley, on a very short note, you got anything?
I've had enough excitement for one
Have
night.
you? Okay. I understand.
That's his bedtime.
Missing The Bachelor. Jamie?
I'm good, thank you.
Lisa?
All good, thank you.
Trudy?
I'm good, thank you.
Chris?
Thanks for answering all my impact fee questions. I'm
Ryan?
done.
Just one question on what y'all are doing. We've got hyper security on all of our assets now, right? So that personal information don't get out.
That is correct, we do,
Encryption.
and we actually have a new program we'll be introducing to you very soon, that even is making, it's gonna make us even more secure. Our IT department has been working on it, and we're just not ready to roll that information out yet. We're making sure we have everything up and running and working properly prior to that, so.
It's always a threat nowadays.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I would like to take time also just to say, express my appreciation to all the employees of the town of Fort Mill, because, you know, while technology is a great thing for us on this end of it, it still comes with change. And our staff across the board has been very open to the changes for this new technology, and I'm very thankful for that, because without the buy-in from our employees, this would be a very difficult process, more difficult than it's been already, but we're just very happy with everyone, you know, doing their part and chipping in to make sure everything gets up and running properly.
Wonderful, wonderful. The only thing I have is that I would like to thank council and staff. Council, not just for sticking it out and doing what you do, but so many of you did your homework that it's incredible to get through the type of agenda that we were able to get through tonight, and to do the things that are right for our community. And for staff, for preparing it and for leaning in with us to help us make the best decisions possible. I look forward to more and more information in an easier form that we might be able to use to make better decisions. We're our own Tyler system, so we're getting there, slow but sure. But thank you to all of you, because without you, I wouldn't want to do this, you know. So how about that motion for adjournment?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All righty then. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Thank you for coming.